Thank you, Birgit, for agreeing to be interviewed. I know this is right at the end of the conference, and you're probably, as much as I am, looking forward to relaxing a little. But we're particularly keen to talk to it's called the Mathematics in Education Network?
Mathematics Education Research.
The Mathematics Education Research Network, because, I mean, you are the one special subject network, I think. But tell me what the network's all about.
Well, as the network says, it's about mathematics education research. That is everything that has to do with mathematics education, and people researching mainly in classrooms, but also out of classrooms. So it concerns teachers, it concerns students, but we have a lot of classroom research obviously going on. But there are also materials in the classrooms. So there are textbooks, there are curriculum materials, there are tools being used, ICT. Then there are research methodologies being used for classroom research or for general research. There are, of course, big surveys. I mean, we know that there's TIMSS and PISA and so on. This is all mathematics education research.
And I suppose there's lots of different subjects in education, isn't there?
Yeah.
So, and I know it's open to anybody to propose a network to ERA, but I wonder why it was the mathematics people who came forward saying we'd like a network for our subject. What is in fact mathematics, do you think?
I think until about a few years ago, the mathematics education researchers were submitting under curriculum. For example, Network 3 now, under assessment or under didactics, for example. And so there was no home for them, really. And also, they were going to other conferences. They were going to mathematics education specific conferences, but they were also going to general conferences where then they had a mathematics instruction or mathematics education research network, like for example ARA, the big American conference. So I thought we needed a home really, because at ECR they were distributed or not submitting any proposals because they felt there was no home for them. So I proposed the Mathematics Education Research Network to create a home for mathematics education researchers, and it was accepted, and I think immediately we have had a big demand. And last year was the first conference, and we had immediately a full program. We rejected people and so on.
Amazing.
And this year we haven't grown considerably, I would say, but I think we've changed in internationality, I would nearly say, because one of the problems in inverted commas for people, for example, proposing symposia, is the European nature. And so you cannot easily, you cannot propose a symposium unless you have the three nationalities involved. And I mean, we've had that quite easily through the different European projects that we, as participants or conveners, co-conveners, and all the participants that came immediately are involved in. There are many European projects that we're involved in. And this year, we had more international projects. I mean, we had symposia from the Learner's Perspective Study, which includes Japan and China and Australia. So we were going wider, actually, which was very nice because it really shows the international nature of mathematics education research, I'd say.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that. I mean, what is the added value of, you could go to a mathematics and education network in the UK or in Germany or in Italy. What's the added value of having people from different countries coming together?
Well, as maybe some of the presentations sort of highlight, I think when you have a phenomenon or when you have a construct, I think one of the ways of deepening a construct, of discussing it in greater depth, is actually by comparing. Because you see something different, and this something different, helps you to reflect upon the construct, and therefore you deepen your knowledge. So it's not about just saying, oh, all over Germany or all over Norway they're doing this and this and this. It's about the constructs, the phenomena that are there, and to deepen them.
How different are the constructs?
Well, I think they are, because if you just think of the different contexts, For example, today you heard it about the Japanese. I mean, that is the starkest contrast, I would say. But even within Europe, we think, oh, we are so small countries and everything is the same. But it's not, because we have very different traditions. We have very different curricular traditions. We have very different general cultural traditions. We have very different teaching traditions, learning traditions, maybe.
So there may be a chance to learn from each other because of those different
different absolutely.
traditions.
Yeah.
So this conference, I mean, tell me, what were some of the issues which came out at your network's conference this year?
What were some of the issues? Well, one of the issues came up with respect to research methodology, for example, because in mathematics education research you have immediately the substantive issues.
Yes.
The mathematics in the classroom, you know. Of course, there's the, mathematics education, teacher, learner, all those things. But there's also the research methodology and common frameworks. So, for example, symposia, should they have common frameworks? You can't always get it. We had symposia who had common frameworks, but not every symposium can provide a common framework that everything's analyzed under. So research methodology, and up to now the research methodology was something that was sort of permeating the conference. And one of the issues for me now, I find, is should we have, let's say, symposia or sessions where we highlight or where we encourage people to present on research methodology, on particular methodologies, because the mathematics classroom is special in a sense how it's set up, because you use in mathematics classrooms automatically different representations. What means different representations? Could be different tools, could be different ways of talking about, the X and the apple and so on, So there are automatically in the mathematics classroom, inherently in the subject, certain things that other people maybe worry less about. So that's one of the issues that I think methodology, it came up in our conveners meeting because maybe research methodology might be a new network and so on. But the mathematics classroom has particular methodologies that are sort of inherent in
itself, not in a generalized research methodology.
Yes, there are of course general methodologies and so on, survey, things and so on. But that's so that was one of the things. The other issue for us is because the traditional mathematics education research conferences provide proceedings, and these proceedings are widely read by mathematics education researchers. Now the question is, if we want to have status as a conference and as a mathematics, we need probably some proceedings.
That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work, and how do we manage that? So there are things that come when the network grows, or grows not only in number but in sort of in depth or in maturity. Yes. I would nearly say.
I think that maturity is an interesting aspect. So then, you're a very young network. You're only 2. You're hardly mature yet.
Yes.
But what stages? What do you think? Where do you think you will go as you become more mature? Where do you see the future for your network?
I see the future in the network in. At the moment, we are very, very inclusive. The question is, do you want sometimes the quality of presentations, and then you cannot be so inclusive, or do you accept, a lot of papers, be very inclusive, let everybody present, or nearly everybody, and so on. So there's a fine line. It's a bit of a tightrope act, I would say.
Yes, it's true.
And also, how many more parallel sessions do you want to have? I took the line that I wanted 1 full sessions, and I know how many sessions, presentations, and so on that means. So I tried to cater for that, and I nearly adjusted sort of the acceptance rate close to that, But if you want to run a whole parallel session, I mean, here we're in one room, and I like that. I wanted one room for the group so that they can get together, and not many parallel sessions. If we really grow, do we want to have 2 rooms next to each other? Where do you do then? So you have.
And what happens when you get 200 people applying because you become so popular?
Yeah. So So there are issues in terms of size and scaling up and so on. And I, at the moment, tend to go for that. I say no. I want to become sort of more rigorous with the selection process. Maybe more depth in there, and at the same time, I think I want also to bring more coherence in it. So when I can choose more coherent sessions because I can group them in a better way. I think we try to do that, but there's still always a few presentations that you have to sort of put mosaic-wise together, you know. So, and I think I would like to encourage in the next call, I would actually, or in our descriptor, to ask for maybe groups of research groups to present, and that maybe they propose 2 or 3 or 4, you know, and then you have an automatic coherence. Even though you don't have a symposium, you have a coherence, and that you only have to talk once about the framework, you know, and then you can discuss the issues of that project. And so I'd like to go more towards coherence and depth and sort of rigorous. So that's at the moment my attempt. But at the same time, I want to hear the newer researchers also. You know, there's a lot of really interesting research coming from some countries, and a lot of it is from young researchers. So there's this fine line. Huh?
And I think the issues you've been talking about here in this interview are issues many of the networks are facing, and I don't really know what the answers are, but I think it's very good that you are identifying those as a very young network. Thank you very, very much for taking the time out, and have a great evening in Helsinki.
Thank you very much. Thank you.